The quiet corridors of Windsor Castle have witnessed centuries of royal intrigue, but few moments in its modern history carry the weight of what recently transpired behind its ancient stone walls. Prince William has embarked on a calculated campaign to purge the monarchy of any element he deems a threat to its future stability. The story currently whispering through the gilded halls is not merely about the individual who was just cast out into the cold. It is a stark revelation of how the royal family truly operates when the cameras are off and the public facade is stripped away. Freddy Parker Bowles, the grandson of Queen Camilla, has been permanently banished from royal life. The ruthless, clinical manner in which his exile was executed reveals far more about Prince William's future reign than any polished, official Buckingham Palace statement ever could. Yet the most telling detail, the element that transforms a messy family dispute into a monumental constitutional reset, occurred quietly from an upper window overlooking the grounds. Princess Anne, the firm backbone of the institution, watched the disgraced youth leave the estate entirely alone. Her reaction was subtle, marked only by a brief, silent nod of her head. It was a gesture that senior house staff recognized instantly as an unambiguous seal of approval. Before the situation erupted into an undeniable scandal, Prince William had already made his position terrifyingly clear. Freddy Parker Bowles is not merely uninvited for the season, nor is he undergoing a temporary cooling-off period. There will be no redemption arc, and no public apology will grant him re-entry. His removal is total, absolute, and permanent. What makes this swift purge so extraordinary is that William did not act out of impulsive anger. He did not lose his temper or make a decision in the heat of a bitter argument. Instead, he identified the vulnerability weeks before anyone else was even aware of a problem. He quietly sat back, allowing the evidence to accumulate into an unassailable mountain of proof before executing his plan inside a small, private sitting room. Only 3 individuals were present during that fateful confrontation: Prince William, Queen Camilla, and Freddy himself. There were no press officers, no senior advisors, and no domestic staff who could later leak accounts of a raised voice or a lost composure. It was a calculated, deliberate removal designed to send a shockwave through the extended family. To understand how a teenager managed to find himself at the center of a royal crisis, one must look at the toxic mix of ambition and entitlement that bred the disaster. Freddy Parker Bowles had been persistently pushing for access to royal privileges he was never entitled to receive. Behind closed doors, he began openly mocking Catherine, the Princess of Wales, while simultaneously leaking sensitive household details that placed the crown at genuine risk. For months, William observed every misstep without uttering a single word of warning. When he finally summoned the young man to that private sitting room, the cold finality of his words left those who heard about the meeting completely stunned. Camilla sat by, utterly defenseless, unable to shield her grandson from the consequences of his actions. This decisive move against Camilla's bloodline did not occur in a vacuum. It is part of a broader, systematic effort by the Prince of Wales to eliminate what he views as institutional liabilities, a process that began with someone far closer to the throne, Prince Andrew. For months, the disgraced Duke of York had been aggressively lobbying behind the scenes, desperate to claw back his lost titles and regain a foothold in public life. William, however, made it abundantly clear to King Charles that the family had already extended far too many second chances to a man who had never demonstrated genuine remorse. Witnesses present during those high-level discussions were struck by William's icy resolve. He watched unflinchingly as his father signed off on rejecting Andrew's pleas once and for all. It was the precise moment senior aides realized that beneath William's warm public persona lies a leader capable of severing ties permanently, without hesitation or regret. With Prince Andrew effectively neutralized, William turned his unwavering focus toward Queen Camilla's side of the family, where subtle boundary pushing had been taking place for years. Camilla had quietly been seeking to secure a ceremonial role for her grandson at an upcoming regimental event, an honor strictly reserved for working members of the royal family. She wanted to anchor her own bloodline within the official structure of the monarchy, creating a legacy that could never be erased. Driving this ambition from the background was her son, Tom Parker Bowles, who had long harbored a quiet resentment over his status. Despite being the Queen's son, Tom felt largely excluded from the privileges of the institution. Tom had repeatedly instilled a dangerous philosophy in his son, suggesting that the royal family owed them far more than they were being given. He advised Freddy that in their position, one should never wait to be offered a seat at the table. Rather, one must demand it and take what they can by force if necessary. Blinded by his father's counsel, Freddy made the catastrophic mistake of approaching senior household staff directly to demand royal perks. The moment he bypassed standard protocols, his name was flagged on William's personal radar. Rather than confronting the youth immediately, William quietly assigned a trusted aide to monitor Freddy's movements, setting off a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his total undoing. Unaware that he had been placed under active surveillance by the Prince of Wales's team, Freddy Parker Bowles continued down a path of reckless self-indulgence. His father, Tom Parker Bowles, encouraged him to build his public profile, believing that a little calculated visibility would help the young man step out from the long shadow of the royal court. Prompted and coached by his father, Freddy sat down for an interview with a high-end lifestyle publication. During the discussion, he treated private family matters at Windsor as casual conversation. He openly described Prince William as overly rigid and stiff, casually remarking to the journalist that he doubted William had what it took to be a truly fine king. Within hours of publication, William's private office flagged the article. The words themselves were dismissive, but to William, the intent was far more damaging. It revealed that Freddy viewed the royal family not as an institution to be protected with discretion, but as currency to be spent for his own personal profile. What began as an embarrassing public relations misstep quickly escalated into a grave breach of royal security, in a foolish attempt to impress his peers. Freddy began boasting to classmates that he was privy to high-level secrets about the royal household. Among these confidences was sensitive, highly private medical information concerning King Charles himself. Word traveled rapidly from student gossip to a concerned parent, who promptly tipped off a national journalist. The palace press office spent 2 agonizing days working feverishly behind the scenes to contain the leak and suppress the story before it hit the front pages. This was the definitive turning point for William. Freddy was no longer merely a public relations nuisance or an arrogant teenager. He had transformed into an active security liability. A loose-lipped relative with unmonitored access to the king's private health data was an existential danger to the crown. The situation collapsed completely when internal palace security intercepted private group chat messages in which Freddy referred to Windsor Castle as his personal second house. He bragged about his ability to bypass standard security protocols, offered to secure exclusive access to private polo events for his friends, and routinely badgered palace staff to grant him special favors based on his grandmother's rank. When William personally reviewed the transcript of these exchanges, what he read chilled him to the bone. Just a year prior, Tom Parker Bowles had been overheard making remarkably similar remarks at a private dinner party, flippantly suggesting the family ought to start charging the public for access to their inner circle. Freddy was not merely acting out. He was echoing his father's mercenary view of the monarchy almost verbatim. Complicating matters even further was Queen Camilla's quiet complicity in her grandson's behavior. For years, Camilla had covertly encouraged Freddy to push his way deeper into the Windsor fold. To her, his full integration into the royal sphere served as the ultimate proof that her own decades-long battle for legitimacy within the monarchy had succeeded, that her acceptance was permanent and had successfully transferred to her own bloodline. She had personally advised Freddy never to wait for invitations, passing down the exact opportunistic strategy she had utilized to survive within a hostile's royal apparatus. However, as William's silent surveillance deepened, subtle signs of an impending storm began to surface. After a lady-in-waiting overheard hushed conversations regarding a complete overhaul of future guest lists, Camilla sensed the shifting wind. She carefully attempted to probe William over dinner, asking how he felt about keeping family members close despite their flaws. William's response was a single, icy sentence: "Family is not the same as liability." Camilla never dared raise the subject again. The final, unforgivable offense occurred when Freddy was surreptitiously recorded by an acquaintance while mocking Catherine, the Princess of Wales. In the audio clip, which quickly circulated among private social circles, Freddy disparaged Catherine as a commoner playing dress-up as a future queen, claiming she would never truly belong among traditional aristocracy. He mockingly imitated her voice, calling her calculated, hollow, and devoid of substance beneath her polished public image. The timing of the leak could not have been more catastrophic, surfacing a mere 2 days before a major joint public engagement meant to display a united royal front. To William, this was no longer a matter of security protocols or careless arrogance. It was a vicious, direct attack on his wife, the future queen and mother of his heirs, originating from within his own household. Making the betrayal exponentially worse was the revelation that Queen Camilla had been made aware of Freddy's derogatory comments about Catherine long before the recording leaked to the public. She had chosen to remain silent, doing nothing to correct her grandson or alert the Prince of Wales. Beneath her polished exterior, a hidden part of Camilla had secretly taken satisfaction in hearing Catherine diminished. After years of being outshone by the younger, overwhelmingly popular Princess of Wales, Camilla had harbored a quiet resentment as the spotlight shifted permanently away from her. When William discovered his stepmother's passive endorsement of Freddy's hostility, his strategy evolved from institutional protection to deeply personal retribution. Freddy was no longer just a liability, he was a traitor in the camp. What followed was a systematic, ice-cold freeze-out. Freddy's name was quietly scrubbed from the guest list of a private Windsor Garden reception, with no formal explanation provided by the palace. Soon after, an invitation to an exclusive family gathering was abruptly rescinded via a terse, formal note from a private secretary citing rescaled attendance. His access to the internal palace communication channels used to coordinate weekend stays at Windsor was abruptly revoked without warning. Panicked and isolated, Freddy reached out to his father for guidance. Tom Parker Bowles, showing no surprise, instructed his son that he needed to stand his ground and fight back like a man. Driven by his father's dangerous advice, Freddy made the fatal decision to crash a Windsor Park charity walk attended by senior royals. Standing at the perimeter of the crowd, he hoped to force a confrontation or earn a moment of pity. Instead, Prince William caught sight of him, his face locking into an expression of absolute, unyielding stone. The rest of the family, including his own grandmother, looked straight past him, refusing to acknowledge his presence. Overwhelmed by deep humiliation, Freddy fled the grounds as the stark reality of his complete isolation settled in. In the frantic weeks following his public humiliation at Windsor Park, Freddy's mother attempted on 2 separate occasions to broker a quiet, private meeting between her son and Prince William. She held out hope that a face-to-face apology might soften the prince's stance and prevent a permanent rift before the situation became entirely unyielding. However, both requests were swiftly rejected, not through personal notes, but through cold, formal protocol administered by palace intermediaries. Staff who observed this tactical stonewalling recognized it immediately for what it was. William was deliberately avoiding an encounter not out of business, but to preserve his own absolute resolve. He knew that looking the young man in the eye might introduce an unwanted element of hesitation or sentimentality. William had no intention of granting mercy, and he was taking no chances that could compromise the total execution of his plan. The cold strategy reached its inevitable climax during a quiet family weekend at Windsor, when Freddy committed his final, fatal error. In an act of profound foolishness, he posted a series of short videos to his private Instagram account from within an off-limits, high-security quarter of the royal estate. One frame clearly captured a blurry view of a private residential hallway with an active royal protection detail visible in the background. Although the post was deleted within seconds, palace security systems had already flagged, captured, and documented the footage. To William's team, this was not viewed as a harmless mistake by an undisciplined youth. It was logged as a catastrophic operational security breach. It handed William the exact, indisputable justification he needed to finalize the purge, transforming what was internally a personal and institutional feud into a matter of absolute security protocol. The final execution occurred in a small, unpretentious private sitting room within the palace, a space typically reserved for routine domestic chats, which only amplified the surreal horror of the moment. Only 3 individuals were permitted inside: Prince William, Queen Camilla, and Freddy Parker Bowles. William ensured no private secretaries, aides, or household staff were present to witness or record the encounter, guaranteeing that no outside observer could ever claim he had lost his temper or acted out of unbridled rage. Throughout the brief confrontation, William did not raise his voice once. He spoke with a quiet, flat cadence that carried terrifying finality, informing Freddy that his access to Windsor was revoked, his presence at family events was terminated, and his inclusion in the wider royal perimeter was permanently finished. When William explicitly used the word permanently, Freddy's composure completely shattered. Ignoring William, he turned directly to his grandmother, his voice cracking as he asked if she was really standing by and allowing this to happen to him. Before Camilla could even attempt a reply, William stepped in, cutting her off with absolute authority. He stated firmly that the decision had been made for the preservation of the crown, not as a personal debate. Camilla remained entirely silent, refusing to defend her grandson or contest the prince's ruling. Her complete inaction spoke volumes, signaling to everyone in that room that her own survival within the institution depended entirely on her submission to the future king. Addressing Freddy directly one last time, William looked him dead in the eye and delivered the final, devastating blow. "You don't get to mock my wife and call yourself family." With those words, the matter was closed. After Freddy fled the room, Camilla offered a quiet, desperate plea to William, asking if he truly comprehended the psychological toll he had just inflicted upon a boy who never asked to be born into the relentless machinery of the royal spotlight. William offered no defense, debate, or apology. He simply nodded once, a silent acknowledgement that he had already calculated the emotional cost to Camilla's family and deemed it a necessary price to pay for the long-term survival and integrity of the monarchy. As the disgraced youth walked out of the castle for the final time, the total isolation of his new reality became immediately clear. There was no royal motorcade awaiting him, no palace aides to escort him off the property, and no sympathetic lingering goodbyes. Instead, he was forced to wait by the gatehouse for a standard commercial taxi he had called himself, exiting the estate like an uninvited stranger who had overstayed his welcome. Watching this pathetic departure from an upper window of the castle was Princess Anne. She stood motionless behind the glass, observing the entire sequence with an unreadable, stony expression as the taxi disappeared down the long avenue. Days later, during a routine gathering of senior royals, Queen Camilla's name was mentioned in connection with internal family arrangements. Princess Anne listened silently before offering a single, subtle nod of her head, a gesture so subtle that an untrained eye would have missed it entirely. Yet veteran household staff who had served the crown for decades understood the profound weight of that brief movement. They had seen that exact same nod years earlier, when other contentious figures had been quietly excised from the royal inner circle. To Anne, who had dedicated her entire life to unyielding duty and made immense personal sacrifices for the stability of the institution, William's ruthless action was not an act of cruelty. It was the necessary, long overdue enforcement of standards within a family that had spent decades suffering from the actions of those who treated royal privilege as a birthright rather than a heavy burden. The banishment of Freddy Parker Bowles stands as a definitive turning point in the modern history of the British royal family. It signals the end of an era of leniency and the dawn of Prince William's uncompromising vision for his future reign. By systematically neutralizing liabilities, whether a disgraced uncle or his stepmother's ambitious grandson, William has sent an unmistakable message to the entire extended family. Loyalty, discretion, and respect for the crown are non-negotiable. The reign of Prince William has, in effect, already begun behind closed doors, and as the dust settles over Windsor, the message ringing through the ancient corridors is louder than ever. The survival of the monarchy will always supersede the feelings of those within it.